So here's another episode of our podcast produced by Pacific Atrocities Education. Our channel, according to some people, have been very boring with some voiceover and which talk strictly about history. And so we just wanted to add some podcast element. And today we have our social media friends from World War II Daily joining us. Tell us about your handle.
All right. So first of all, thank you very much, Jenny, for having me tonight. Um, it is a great honor and pleasure to be here, talking to you. And well, my name is Pietro. I'm from Brazil, and I run and host the World War II Daily podcast. This is a project that started in 2020 when my grandma passed, and I decided to search for my grandfather's stuff from the war amongst her belongings, and then I started collecting. I started the page, and I went from there. And last year I started the podcast with Samuel, and basically here we are. So
Yeah.
yeah,
And
well,
so tell us what's happening in Brazil since you're from Brazil.
yeah. So I was telling Jenny before that last week was a very hot week for well, for politics and how can I say, security? I mean, yeah. Um, I think most of the audience are aware that Brazil is a big country, and we have cartels in some of the places, especially in big cities here, like where I am in São Paulo and in Rio. But the most famous cartels are from Rio because you probably uh, maybe you heard about the movies City of God and Elite Squad 1 and 2. I don't know if you've ever heard about it, but some of my American friends they know they knew these movies, and maybe
Yeah.
that's why people internationally got more um, aware of the cartels in Rio. They are slightly different from the ones in São Paulo, but yeah, last week the police, and it's a very sensitive topic. It's very ideological as well, and depending on the side where you are in this manner, you can win or lose an election. So it's very important for politicians as well to, well, to take a side, to stand for either the cartels or the policemen. So you can imagine conservatives will side with the police, and the liberals will side with the cartels, and that's an ideological and like a war of narratives and propaganda. Um, but the fact is, there are two main, I'm going to call them favelas, right? So there are two very
Yes.
famous, I don't know if I can call them main, like the two very famous,
Infamous.
yeah, complexes, that's they call in
Hmm.
Portuguese. Um, those are slums. Yeah. So these two areas are controlled by the same faction called CV, or Comando Vermelho. It means Red Command. Um, so these guys control both of these complexes, and they are like one on each side of a hill, like a mountain.
Yeah, I've been to
Called
Medellin. I've been to Medellin's favela before, so yeah, they're always on a mountain.
exactly because those are the areas that are not very valuable, right? So people
Mm.
move into, and they're areas of risk. So usually during the rainy season, which is starting around now, um, so we have a lot of landslides and people die, and it's complicated. Brazil is a very poor country. Sometimes we have the impression that it's not, but it is. Frequently reminding my friends, like we are very privileged. We live in very good areas, but in general, Brazil is a very poor country. So yeah. Anyways, so every time the police did an operation in this place, the members, the soldiers of these cartels, they would go up the hill, hide in the forest that is at the top of this. It's a mountain. It's more like a mountain than a. We have a specific name in Portuguese, so that's why I don't know. We call it serra, which is a little mountain, basically.
Okay.
Um, So they would hide in this little jungle at the top of this little mountain, and the police would not chase them, and that's it. So nothing ever happened until last week when the Boppy, the same squad, the special operations squad that appears in the uh, Elite Squad, the movie, they took positions in this jungle, and of course, when the soldiers of the cartels went into the forest, they were uh, massacred. Yeah, that's the word.
Wow.
And they killed about 120 of them and lost four police officers. And this was huge. It was insane. And I had friends from Ukraine asking me like, "What's going on? Is it real?" I was like, "Yeah." And it was very shocking. And I think it's, of course, I don't like the fact that cartels control areas of the cities, but it's very sad to know that this is a reality and that there's an active war going on for territory in Rio. So we basically have a parallel state, many parallel states, like mini states occupying areas, and the state itself is trying to retake it. And it's very popular amongst the population because most of the people they are tired of.
Yeah.
If you go out on the streets here and you have your phone in your hand, you might get stolen. Someone might come and actually pull it out of your hand. I had it. It
Wow.
happened to me twice. So
Wow.
yeah, so it's the blue collar, they are pissed because they work a lot to make money, and then they buy a cell phone and someone comes and takes it away.
In a
And
way, it's like a
yeah.
tax because then, you pay tax, but then the government's still not protecting you, and then you get taxed by
Oh
the
no.
cartel.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's worth mentioning that these cartels they operate basically like mafias, right?
Yeah.
So when I say soldier, I mean soldier. They were wearing camouflage. They had like assault rifles. I mean, like M4s, MP5s, and stuff like that. Even BARs, like World War II guns, appeared in the middle of the guns the police apprehended.
Wow.
But yeah, so and the areas they control, the way they make money, people tend to believe it's drug dealing, and yes, it is, of course it is. But there's also they sell internet because they control internet in the area. They sell what they call gatunete, which is cable TV, basically. They also sell butane, like the gas
Wow, so they're like
for
a
cooking.
second government. They're
Exactly. Yes, they provide all the services.
Wow,
Yeah.
that's insane. I
Yeah.
didn't even know that about Brazil until wow, that's very
Exactly.
informative. Thank you so much. Let's go back to your grandma's box. So what did you find in her box after she passed away?
Okay. Yeah. So, all right. I think it's worth mentioning that my grandmother, she was a refugee from the Spanish Civil War here in Brazil.
Mm.
And she met my grandfather, who was a veteran from the he served as a tramat, which is the transports and materials. It's a company of transport and materials, basically driving trucks around the supplies and supplying the lines and going back and forth. He was a driver. Um, and by the end of the war, Italy was screwed and they didn't have people. So he was a good driver, and then they turned him into a auto blinda driver. Auto blinda is a small armored vehicle. You guys probably know Italy wasn't a really good equipment wise and personnel wise. It was a very small and not very capable vehicle. But he drove that in Greece as occupation force there
Mm.
by the end of the war. And he returned to. It's a long story, but he returned to Italy in 45, the beginning of 45, and he became a partisan. He fought against the fascists. He was a communist, like a Marxist communist, who was insanely fanatic by the time of the war, as his father was before him. But anyways, yeah, my grandmother passed, and I went running to rescue the stuff. I knew there was stuff, but I don't know. I didn't know what was there. What I could recover for real was the pictures. So I have many pictures from my grandfather from the wartime in front of the trucks, showing his I don't know how to say in English, but
Tattoo?
his no, the uniform, the
Oh,
ranks, the
oh,
ranks on the
insignia.
uniform,
Yeah.
the insignias, yes, showing and some beautiful pictures he took in professional studios in Verona, um, which
Oh,
are
I love
stamped. So,
Verona.
oh,
Verona.
beautiful.
You
Yes,
you
I've been
mean
there.
like Juliet and Romeo, Verona?
Exactly.
Wow.
There.
Wow, yeah.
There they held a centro automobilista. It is it's like how can I say, vehicle
Mm-hmm.
center for the Italian army. And my grandfather was there for quite a while with his brother. I didn't know that until I did some research this year, and I discovered many things about his story. But yeah, he was there, and he took some professional pictures, and the pictures are stamped. And I could find the exact place where he took. They actually still take pictures there nowadays.
Wow.
So pretty interesting. Yeah, but that's I basically found the pictures, his pictures there. And it was the start of the World War II daily thing because um I don't know, I wanted to tell his story, but in the end there was so much more to do with that, and
Yeah, you
yeah,
guys are
here I
pretty
am.
active. Yeah. And how does Samuel get in the story? So Samuel just because he is not in Brazil, right? How did you meet
No,
Samuel?
he's Dutch.
Right.
And this is the beauty of it, right? I think Uh, when I was planning the World War II daily, I was like, I want to make it international. I don't want to make it about the Brazilian Expeditionary Force. I don't want to make it about D-Day or Stalingrad. I want to do it about India, about Japan, about Korea. I want to go to Korea, so I did it this year. I want to make it about um, the crazy stories we don't know. So Samuel, it's good you asked because he followed me, and every page that follows me that seems legit, and I see these people are doing like real historic work. They're not messing around. I follow back. I think it supports people back, so I followed him back. And I don't know, he posted something, I commented, and then we started chatting, and then he sent one of his books to me, and it was the 614th Tank Destroyer Battalion, and all black American unit, um, driving, anti-tank weapons, which were a very new concept, and it didn't survive after the war, but for very long. But in the book, he talks about the concept and the way these units would fight, the amount of weapons, the way they operated, and how these black soldiers came in these units, and all the problems, racism, and everything. And it ends up with the battles in France and in Germany. And I was like, dude, this book is really good. This dude, what's going on here? And then he sent me his second book, which was a new book. It was about the Tuskegee Airmen. And I read that book and I was like, all right, this I had I had only 2 episodes in the podcast, 3 episodes, I don't know. And I was like, okay, do you wanna come and talk about your books? And it was like, yeah. And after the episode, we had a little chat. And I was like, this dude is legit. He's really good. He's really smart. He's a machine. I need this guy with me. And then we had a chat like a week later. It's like, do you want to like talk over a tea and talk about history, whatever? And then I invited him. I was like, do you want to join? Do you want to It's like it's my show, but I feel like it would be
Yeah.
great. And
Yeah.
he was, and he is. Like
You
I
guys are
love him.
yeah, you guys are super active. He reached out to me via WhatsApp right away. I was like, "Wow, I'm just waking up and he's He's messaging me right
Exactly.
away.
Yes. Yes.
Anyway, so as someone who shares World War II history every single day on Instagram, what patterns have you noticed in how younger audience, let's say like Gen Z and Gen Alpha, engage with or ignore these posts? And do they like and share your posts? Does it feel like it's genuine interest, or is it more like they scroll past it? Like, what's your audience like?
I'm sorry. Um, yeah, I mean, most of the people who are there, they are very active, and I think they're very genuine history enthusiasts. Because Um, well, they follow the page for a reason, right? They want to see daily World War II content. And that's what I do, thanks to my partners. Without them, it would be impossible. But yeah, so I think they are not scrolling past. I think there are people who are legitimately interested in seeing World War II on a daily basis. But it doesn't mean that um, they are good people or that they are engaging in a very good way. I think we're going to get into that a little further down this conversation. Um, maybe most of the, not most, maybe the loudest people, let's put it that way, because just to put into perspective, out of like 20,000 followers, we have like 200 comments in a post.
Oh yeah.
So it's not the majority of the people who are like
And some people
talking.
just cannot stop commenting. It's just like, wow, I need to
You
mute this guy or block him. So like some of the posts that like you share with me some comments and I will post them uh on this video. You were saying something about comfort women statue. For those who don't know, comfort women were sex slaves basically during World War II. And some people commented, what was your original post again? Let me go to the
yeah, it's a post about I post
yes.
it, it's a picture
Your
I took
post?
from
Yeah, your post was a picture you took from Seoul, and it says, "War is
exactly.
not just fought on the front lines; it's also fought in the lives of the vulnerable." And then you posted a picture of um Comfort Woman statue, and some of the comments are insane. They say, "Oh, this is a money-making statue. What war crime? Please don't give me some generalized rant, but a specific action that was against the rules of warfare at that time," which we'll get to later. They always tell me that. They're like, "Oh, what is your source?" And I said, "Well, is from the United States National Archive." And then they would tell me, "Oh, you need to tell me more specifically." And then I tell them a specific source. And then immediately then they say, "CCP, communism, blah, blah, blah." And I was thinking like, wow, I was not aware that the United States is a communist country.
Yeah, I mean,
And
I've sent people the document, like the links with the documents that you can read it by yourself, and they would reply, "Oh, but it's in Japanese." Yeah, it is in Japanese because you're asking me for a primary source. Like you translate it, you read it, you want the proof. I'm
right,
proving you, and they never
exactly.
answer.
And there are even like the Japanese court also admitted that Unit 731 existed. They have like primary sources in Japanese about comfort women, and people would still comment that say, "Oh my gosh, this comment is crazy. Comfort women were high salary, so the newspaper recruited and applied were sent, and there is no fact that military forced them to take them away. It was caused by a fabricated article in the Asahi Shimbun." So even their own newspaper is talking about comfort women, and these
Yeah,
stupid people are still disputing it. And then
I
yeah,
searched
it's
for the newspaper. I looked
yeah.
for it. I went for it. I went to read like the stuff. But yeah, anyways,
Yeah, but
go
anyway,
ahead.
so yeah, I would say that I also get these kind of comments pretty often. Someone signed up to be like the Hideki Tojo and started trolling my content, which is insane because if someone started a username as Hitler, I feel like a lot of their items would then started becoming like filter. But then I don't think people understand that Hideki Tojo is like an equivalent of Hitler, and that's why they're going around and they're allowed to go around and say all this stuff. So, anyway, in your view, what is the biggest reason that young people today seem disconnected from history? Is it an overloaded curriculum or social media algorithm prioritizing quick trends over deep dives, or is it something cultural like living in the now after years of global crisis?
Perhaps it's a little bit of everything, right? I think it's well, I'm a teacher as well, and I think it's deep. It's a very complex because it might change for from people from person to person, might be super individual. But I tend to think that in general, social media added a layer of well, it's you're I'm exposed all the time because I run a page where I show my face basically every day. Uh, for people who are not I'm gonna talk about my students, right? They
Okay.
watch a lot of content every day, especially on TikTok. They are the TikTok generation. Um, and I think it's your brain just wants to save energy. And if you don't educate yourself, and that's why education is so important, maybe it's not even about learning facts, but about being disciplined enough to study things and um, to accomplish intellectual things in your life. So I think people are lazy and they are becoming lazier and lazier and lazier because information comes to them so easily nowadays. It's so easy to consume everything. And history demands a lot of effort.
Yeah.
I mean, politics, economic demands a lot of effort. When you see a lot of people talking about it on the internet, and it seems really easy to understand because this person explains in a very easy way, think twice because it's not easy. It's very complex. Again, you see a lot of people talking about it, but it doesn't mean these people understand what they're talking about, or um, they
Right.
really
Yeah, or they
mm,
would, yeah, and the people who make it sound so simple, they're trying to distort some truth, as I see on your comments sometimes. I mean, the people who comment on your posts sometimes, they do that. And so it's like pages like yours that try to also, push historical truth out there. We have a digital archive with over 1 million pages on that we have produced, and all of the primary sources of Japanese war crimes are from the US National Archives that we've digitized over the years. A lot of these pages are pretty fragile, and it's not easy. It's not easy to understand what happened in the past. And yeah, so
it's
you've built
not.
a
It's very hard.
yeah. So you've built a community around daily World War II facts. So have you gotten any feedback from followers under 25 saying history feels irrelevant or depressing? And how do you counter that without sounding like a stuffy professor?
I think it connects to the last question, right? But I like on in the page, I never got any comment or DM saying, "Oh, this is boring. Why you're doing this? History is irrelevant." I never got it. What we get a lot is history is so relevant that we're gonna try to manipulate the entire thing to make Nazis look good, for example. That we get that a lot. Yeah.
Really? You
That's
got
why
that
we're
a lot?
yeah, not like I was just like joking, but yeah, basically people do that a lot. Like people try to demoralize our posts or send us DMs with like, "Oh, watch this documentary because this is the real thing that happened is the Europa, the final battle, whatever." And you check out the director, the producer of the documentary. It's like neo-Nazi dude from whatever Norway who produced the documentary. And they're like, "This is not a story. This is not a real source, man." And we got a lot of that. But anyways, most of the people who complains about history being boring are around me, my students, my family, my friends. They are the ones who are um, some of them don't even care that I'm doing what I do. They don't even know I have a collection of like insane items here. So yeah, I
Show us
think
some
I
show us some of your collection.
well, I chose some of the items. Every time I'm going to record an episode of my show or some other show like here that
Yeah.
I'm going to be in, I prepare like this background with different items like that are related to the things I'm gonna talk about. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna
You have
show
a
you a little later. I have some sand from Sodemun prison,
okay. Yeah.
and I also have some stuff from Jeju Island, which is a place I went
Wow.
and I went crazy. Like
Wow. Yeah.
I'm going back to Korea 100%. Like I have
Yeah.
no doubts about it. But yeah,
Cool.
anyways,
Yeah.
do you
And
want me
so
to show something right now? Like,
yeah, I was going to play this clip.
oh, the clip. Okay, go ahead.
I want you to name 3 Axis powers and 3 Allied powers, starting with Isabella. Go ahead.
In World War II?
Yeah, so 3 Axis powers, 3 Allied powers.
I'm not gonna lie, I didn't take history.
Wait, so okay. 1 Allied power, 1 Axis power.
What is that?
World War II.
What?
The
what?
Allied powers and the
Oh,
Axis
so
powers.
Allied powers would be like what? Who the U.S. is allied with?
So okay, World War II, right?
Yes.
You've heard of World
Yeah,
War
my
II.
great grandfather.
Okay, here, I'll help you out. Allied, good guys. Axis,
Yeah.
bad guys.
Okay, I got that much, but
Okay.
I couldn't tell you. So what? So whatever countries we were chill with are allied.
Well, just one country from each.
Japan was an access.
Yes.
And then I don't know who we were okay with because I feel like we pissed off a lot of people. So
Yeah.
definitely
pretty
not
close to the Germans,
definitely
right?
not Russia.
Okay.
Okay.
What about you?
Hard pass. I'm not going to do that to myself.
Russia was part of the ally, right? It's yeah,
Yeah.
anyway. So, what do you think about that clip where feminists can't even tell you access or ally?
Well, well, I personally think it's sad, but I don't think like in general. Um, we have a lot of like simple people around the world that are very knowledgeable, very smart, very intelligent, and they have no idea about what happened in World War II. But when you go out on the internet like we do, um, you have to know stuff. And if you call yourself a feminist and you're out there talking about politics, ideology, and you don't know history, the history of your own country, you're American, you don't know the US was an allied power and a very important one, by the way, maybe the main one, like the head of the entire war effort against Japan and Germany and the Axis. It's very sad, but I don't think it means you're dumber or anything. Um,
Right. So,
but
how would
again,
you reframe World War II education or history education, since you're a teacher, to hook someone who don't know?
yeah, again, just to finish what I was saying, like if you're a feminist, you should know that, right? You should know because then you're talking about ideology and politics, and that's bad. But yeah, education. I mean, people need to understand that my students, I try to do that to them to show them. Today, I took a piece of a Soviet helmet to the classroom,
Yeah.
um, and it's a piece of a helmet that was hit by a shrapnel. That's the reality of war, right? Someone actually died wearing that helmet, and it might be a little polemic because they're kids, but we can talk about everything around them besides war and the reality and the cruelty of it. So I try to do that and to teach them first of all how bad war is in reality and not like in a movie, because the helmet's not a movie; it's a real thing in front of them. I try to tell them the story of my grandfather or the story of Leonid Nosek, the guy who's the main character of the second episode of the show, someone who I met, and I spent long afternoons talking to this Soviet soldier who was a survivor of a ghetto, and his family was murdered in Treblinka in a concentration camp. He fled to the Soviet Union. Then he got the word that his family was murdered. The Germans murdered his family, and then he enlisted in the Red Army, and he fought on until he was injured in Tallinn. And I tell them the story of this guy. I show the pictures of him, and
Wow.
I think this is the best way to teach them. Well, I'm talking specifically about World War II. I don't know history in general, but maybe World War II in schools. more reality is needed. I see a lot of young people bragging about fighting wars on Instagram, like calling out people to fight wars. We're gonna
Mm,
fight a war against these and that. And I think the people who understand what violence is will never call for violence.
yeah,
I got that from a sensei, and I think that's the truth. Like if you understand what reality is, you're gonna avoid it as best as you can. And yeah, that's what I try to do. I try to show them. And also, I think it's very important to humanize the people who we are talking about. And that happened to me when my son was born, and I could understand what is a shattered family and what happens when your son goes to war, or when you go to
yeah,
war and you leave your son behind and your wife behind, because now I have a wife and son. And I try to communicate that to my students. Like imagine your father going
yeah,
away and you don't know, like there's no smartphone. There are
right.
ladders that will take months to go back and forth, and that's all you have,
And
and
sometimes when
then
the letters are captured by your enemies, you don't have that even. So,
yeah.
yeah.
So I think reframing it, like the way I see a lot of people, like we interviewed people from the Buffalo Soldier National Museum,
Hmm.
and they were doing like real history stuff with the kids who visit the museum. And I think that's the way, like real history, like they can see things, they can feel things, experience things. For example, how hard it's to make a settlement, a colony somewhere, how to make fire, hunt, and build stuff. That's crazy, right?
Yeah.
So we put people to actively do that, touch things. I think that's a good thing to do.
Yeah, I think so. And that clip that featured feminists who can't name any of the axis or allies, yet feminism is all about amplifying women's voices. So, what do you think modern feminists could learn from World War II history, especially stories of women's resilience and suffering that often get sidelined in the big battles and leaders' narratives?
I think it's not a problem only from feminism, but most of these ideological movements, they cherry pick history, right?
Yeah.
They tend to choose. Uh, well, my lights just went crazy here. Yeah, okay. Yeah, just leave it like that. Um, so I think they tend to cherry pick history in order to fit their narratives, or the narratives they want to build. Because in the end, most of these movements are not about, for example, feminism. It's not about women, but it's more about the ideology that surrounds the movement, right? So they have to cherry pick history because otherwise it would expose some um, let's put it like failures of this ideology. So I think stop cherry picking, and maybe for like feminism only works in the Western world. What about what happened in Asia to these women? For example, I'm Brazilian, so what kind of contact do I have with the Pacific Theater or this um side narratives, like side stories, like the comfort women side stories? Like how can I get to know that? How can feminists in Brazil, how can they learn about it? um so I learned about from a video from Asian Boss. I think it
Yeah.
was Asian Boss, an interview, yeah, with Stelita D and Madame Kim, I think, from Korea. So I watched that. I was like, "What? Never heard about this." And like, yeah. And I started telling people. So I think if those girls were there at that podcast, very famous podcast, very big opportunity to communicate something important for women, um, they they should have studied history, and they should have understand the opportunity they had to educate other people. So bringing an example as the comfort women would be a good opportunity to not only
Yeah.
teach other women about that, but also to honor those women who suffered what they suffered. To remember,
Yeah.
if you're a feminist, I think you should think about the people who also lived through oppressive times, and I mean like real scary oppression. I mean sexual
Yeah.
slavery. It
In,
can be
in tw-
worse, right?
yeah, in 2014, visited China, and China also had comfort women, and they were still alive at the time, and it's heartbreaking because it's not just being suffering in that moment. Afterward, one of the women had a baby, and she had to abandon her baby, and they buried it in a cave somewhere where her mom did that with her. They told me that, well, it's very sad, but at the same time it was a taboo topic at the time, and they couldn't keep the baby because it was just it's just it would have brought shame to the family. And so, yeah, let's zoom in on this comfort woman topic. And so, Korean and other Asian women systematically were enslaved by Japanese army during the war, and it's one of the most gut-wrenching chapter of sexual violence in history. Yet it rarely makes headlines today. Why do you think the story gets buried, and how does ignoring it undermine the fight against gender-based violence now?
Well, I think it gets behind some curtains because of the context of the post-war. Um, I believe that from everything I know, that the United States needed to control things, and in order to control things, you can't kick everybody out of the office. You had to keep some people in and maybe not punish everyone. It also happened in Germany. We have a lot of the clean hands myth in Germany, and that's due to the American policy after the war towards the German officers and some German generals. And I believe the same happened in Japan. So let's not talk about it, leave it behind. And fortunately, that's the way it came to me because of internet, right? So
Yeah.
thankfully we have internet. You guys from the Pacific Atrocities Education can make like a gigantic archive that we can access from Brazil or from wherever. And here we are, exchanging information. And um yeah. So
And also, I think
if
it's
we
politics and economics, because the Philippines had a comfort woman statue, and the president told someone to remove it. I believe it was in Manila, and it was because Japan was investing in the Philippines, and they didn't want to piss Japan off, and so they said, let's remove it.
Yeah, but the thing, yeah, again, pissing Japan off. What about what Japan did? Germans, they deal, I think, in my opinion, well with what they did because they say, yeah, we screwed up. Um, we teach that in the schools, so not let that happen again. And we're very sorry, and we recognize it, and we keep all the facilities used for the massacre there for you to see, and that's it. That's Germany. And I think it really helps to heal and to prevent that happening in the future. And Japan doesn't have the same approach. And I'll be honest with you, when I came back from Korea, I came back with a different vision, of course. That's why you travel. Not to seek something else, right? You're going for something
Yeah.
else. You
Hmm.
you can see the world from your computer, but when you lay boots on the ground, it's completely different. And I feel like the wounds are not healed, although people treat Japanese people really well in Korea. You're not gonna find trouble. But if you talk to some Korean people, they are resentful. They are like
Yeah.
they don't like Japanese, and they are kind of right because I don't know if you know, but every Wednesday, I don't remember
Yes,
the
they
time, but people
protest
protest
at Ewha
exactly in front of the
University at
embassy.
the yes, and I stayed at an Airbnb at Ewha University, and my Airbnb host was like, "Oh yeah, it's Wednesday tomorrow. You want to come protest with me?" And that's like a tourist thing to do,
It is.
which it's interesting because Teddy Roosevelt from the United States won a Nobel Peace Prize, basically handing Korea to Japan. And I don't think a lot of Americans know that either. And so yeah, I don't think the wound between Korea and Japan is totally healed. Um, Yeah, and if those feminists in that clip learned about comfort women survivors like Kim Hak Sung, who testified in the 1990s after decades of silence, what aha moment do you think it will spark? And could it bridge the gap between history is boring and this shapes my world? And how
Probably.
sharing facts like that on your page change perception or not change perception because you have so many hate comments?
Yeah, I think the hate comments are also, as I said, we're like 20,000, 21,000 followers.
Mm,
And if 200 of them are loud and commenting, I believe there are other 1,900 and something that are more into real history and not actually confronting the truth.
right.
Yeah, I think that would be a big aha moment for them. I think if you showed like the interviews I mentioned to some of them, they would be super shocked. And maybe they would take advantage of that and use in the future when they go in a podcast like that again and talk about real feminism. I mean, do you want to talk about real oppression, right?
Hmm.
They're I mean, but I don't okay, there's something I have to bring to the conversation. I think those people, they're also very vain,
Yeah.
and they use feminism as a way to show off and not actually be fighting for something. It's just like, look how good I am, so I'm on the right side, right? So I think it has a lot to do with that. So I don't know how much interested in history these people would really be, but the facts are so shocking, the reality is so bad that it would probably educate them just to learn about uh, these um, these facts. Yeah,
Yeah.
and in our page, we try to change perception, showing to the other 19,000 people what these 200, 500,000 guys are commenting. That's what we are doing now. And we also bring specialists, people who write books about, especially now we are focusing more in Asia because of your help and the Pacific Atrocities Education and my trip to Korea. And that was amazing, the
Yeah,
opportunity
let's
to
talk
be
about
focused
that.
more in
So,
Asia.
yeah,
Okay.
what drew you as a World War II history buff to and how did walking those streets hit different from reading books or posting reel on Instagram?
Yeah, as I said, putting the boots on the ground, it was the first. Well, I lived in Spain, I lived in the UK, I've been to Canada, Mexico, Italy, France, but this trip to Korea was something else. First of all, because I'm from Brazil, and I was in Asia, and it's freaking far, man. It's like 15 hours to Dubai and then 9 hours to Seoul. And when I
Wow.
got there, it was like almost 70 something hours without sleeping. It was insane. It's like I'm the other side of the world, literally. First of all, Koreans are amazing when it comes down to their own history. All the museums, all the places I've been, were flawless, like neat, perfect, so good. The plays were so good. The organization was so brilliant. We're gonna talk a little bit further about So de Montprix, and yeah, it is it is a beautiful country, very organized, and history is alive. Um,
Yeah.
I thought I thought that my focus was going to be World War II and the Korean War. I thought that was going to be the focus, but I ended up getting lost in like Joseon era, Sheila era, and like all the battles of the ancient times and the emperors, and I was like, dude, this is so amazing. It's a very old country in Asia, and
Yes.
it's awesome. It was awesome. I'm passionate. I want to go back
So the
for real.
Sodaman prison is a must visit for anyone who, I mean, you are going to talk to us more about that, who's grappling with Japan's occupation of Korea. So it's like a time capsule of the torture cells, exe execution grounds, and stories of activists like Ryo Kwan-sun who died fighting for independence. What surprised you the most about touring it as a tourist versus like a historian? And did the audio guide or the prison cell make the atrocities feel more immediate?
Okay, so Solomon Prison is a very interesting place. I started to study about it much before going there, or like before even planning to go to South Korea, through this book. I don't know if you can see it because the lights are a
Yeah,
little
yeah, 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 yeah. I can see
strong.
it.
But yeah,
Mm-hmm.
this book was, you can only buy it there at the prison, the history hall. I don't think you can buy it online or anywhere. So my mom brought it to me. And that is the connection I have with South Korea. My mom is a K-drum and a K-pop fan, and she runs a 100,000 followers Instagram page about K-drum and K-pop, and she started to organize trips to Korea. And every time she went there, she would bring back some historical thing to me. And I started to get into the Japanese occupation through her gifts from South Korea. This book was the main reason I started to get interested in that. And the first thing you realize about Sodemon Prison, it wasn't called Sodemon Prison at the beginning, but it was built in 1908. And if you are familiar with the history of the occupation, you know that the official occupation happened in 1910.
Yes.
So the people tend to say that the occupation lasted from 1910 to 1945, but in fact it was from 1905 to 1945 because of the Treaty of Portsmouth, right after
Yes.
the end of the Sino-Japanese War. So the Japanese started to build the prison, foreseeing what they were going to do with the Korean people. So the cruelty starts much before they could officialize their occupation, their annexation of Korea.
Yeah.
And I don't know if probably your audience are they are aware that the occupation in Korea wasn't just um, an occupation. The Koreans were forbidden to speak their own language, to manifest their own culture.
Yes,
So
we also have a blog post about that and how they have to change their last name in order to like get
exactly,
a
yeah.
real job. Yeah.
So the prison was built, and this is also something very interesting from Sodemun. When I got there, the first thing I noticed was the color of the bricks. They are very red bricks, and they are all stamped. And I took pictures of it. And while visiting, there's a room where they explain what the bricks are, where these bricks, red bricks, come from. They were actually produced in another prison by another uh, political prisoners who were working as slaves. So 1908, they built a prison with bricks that were already being produced by um, prisoners, political prisoners. And I didn't use any audio guides or anything, but the place is very well signalized. So you have signs everywhere. Um, it's very dramatic, because, well, I went there during the summer. I don't know when you were in China, but you probably know that summers are
Hot.
really hot, like
Yes.
really hot. I'm from
Yeah,
Brazil, like
I never go to Asia during the summer or the winter because it's just extreme. We live in California, can't handle that kind of
yeah,
weather.
exactly. Yes.
Yeah.
You probably feel the same as I do. Like it is
Yeah.
hot here, but
Hmm.
not as hot as it was there. So I could have we always talk about the cold. People die, they freeze to death. But what about the summer? So you asked me about the places. You can go there, so you can get inside of the cells. And if you go to my Instagram page, you can check the highlights of my visit, and you're gonna see that the doors were really short, so you can really feel how small the places are. And I even like wondered, if you watch the highlights, you're gonna see that there's a moment I wonder, like, were people shorter? Like, well, Asians are shorter in general, but this is really, really small. And I started to wonder how small people were, but in fact, these places were very small and just very crowded, just to save space, just like in a concentration camp. Maybe it's hard to compare. I don't think it's fair to compare, but that would be the equivalent. And somehow the equivalent. And you feel when I was there, this is nice to share with you now. First thing I noticed when I came out of the main installations, where you see all the torture chambers, interrogation rooms, you can experience like the Iron Maidens. You can get inside of the Iron Maidens and see how it is to get
Yeah.
confined in a place with like nails touching your body and you can't move. You can get inside of the cages. They would put people inside of the in a cage with metal spikes towards the inside of this metal cage, and they would roll the cage with the person inside, so the spikes would. So you can get inside of one of these cages and be that nobody, of course, will roll the thing, but you can get there and it's terrifying. So when you get out of that place and you walk to the main it's an open area where they had some smaller buildings, but it was like an open area for the soldiers to march in the morning and to raise the flag and do all that stuff. And you can imagine the for me, I'm from the western side of the world, and I never had any contact with the Japanese Imperial Army, and there I was standing right there, imagining those soldiers going back and forth, and I could feel the evil vibe, the evil intention of those bricks, of those walls.
Yeah.
And there is a gigantic Korean flag standing in this place. I took some pictures there, and yeah, it's nice. There's this Korean like victorious flag, but it also gives you the feeling that there's a chilling memory that's going around this place, that it's not going
Yeah.
away anytime soon. It's
They
there.
really endured it for the longest time. And it's crazy because there was this comment today that told me, oh, but the Koreans now they had the chance to go back from Japan, and a lot of Koreans are still staying in Japan. In fact, I'm going to post it. And it's just, I mean, we have a lot of followers, and it's just crazy that, and those people who want to comment these kind of comments, even if you block them, they're going to make another account just to comment on your content. That is how crazy they are. And so, yeah, so standing in those cells and seeing the Independence Arch nearby, and does that connect back to your daily World War II posts? How do sites like this inspire you to keep sharing history, especially to reach young people who might dismiss it as ancient?
Man, that's a deep question, right? That's a powerful question. I've been working all day long with this one, and it is when I was at the gallows inside of the prison, I didn't capture that in the camera when I was filming, but you can feel it in my voice, that my voice starts to shake because I'm a very emotive person and I'm a Christian and a Catholic Christian. And it touched me so deeply to be inside of the gallows. So actually the place below the gallows where the bodies would drop and be hanging to right into, and you see the faces of the people who died there, and you're right there standing. Um, as well as the trial rooms, and you can feel I was so sad. I was crying, and it was super emotional. And it instantly brought me back to Samuel. So I wrote him. I was like, dude, I'm right here in the gallows of this prison, and what the heck, what's going on? Like, it's so powerful. And he got back to me and was like, yeah, that's what we do, that's we are bringing the voices of these people to these young generations. We are fighting this war. And I was like, yeah, we're fighting the war. That's what we do. That's why we fight in the comments. That's what, okay, we can block them and they come back, but I really like to make a post that I know it's gonna be trouble for them. It's gonna make them pop out to expose themselves. And some of them, they're there, and this is like the moment I was crying there. I was like, I know I'm doing the right thing, but like it
Yeah,
doesn't matter if a family member says it sucks. History sucks. It's so boring. It's like, cool, man. But unfortunately, you can't deny the importance of all of that in your life right now. So it doesn't matter what you say, what you believe. So, and I knew I was doing the right thing. So every time someone comes out and sometimes they're there arguing and trying to bring facts and facts, I'm like, just thank you for exposing yourself as a horrible person. Think about it, you know, like
Yeah,
the
or
person who writes to you, like I said earlier, like Hideki Tojo, uh, who is sane enough to wake up in the morning and say, I'm going to create a profile on Instagram or on X, whatever, and I'm going to call it Hideki Tojo, one of the biggest
war
genocidal
criminal.
commanders, war criminals in history, and I'm going to talk good things about him. Like the guy I was fighting a couple of days ago, his profile, his page name was Pol Pot. I was like, "What? Are you serious? Like you're debating me with this genocidal monster?" It's like, come on,
Or
dude.
just like people who recommend you to watch some like Nazi movie to make Nazis look cool. You're just like, wow, there's all kinds of people out there. It's so crazy. And I think
There
that's
is.
what is so
There is.
important that we keep
You know,
posting.
something that also touched me deeply before we move on from this is that when I was in Jeju, because I'm preparing some Korean tea right now, and this one I bought in Jeju, and I had the opportunity to meet a we call it a partisan, but since it's in Asia, I believe it's a resistance fighter, a guy who fought for the resistance in Japan mainland.
Wow.
Isn't that insane? His name is Kang Song. I went
Yeah.
to his house in Jeju. It was destiny. It was destined to happen because we went to visit a K drama, a filming location, and the location happened to be the house of Kang Song.
Wow.
The guy told me, and I was like, I'm here, like on the other side of the world, and this guy is right here, right now. I need to meet him. So the guide found someone walking around the property, called the guy. The guy was the son of Mr. Kung, and he came outside, and I could make a brief speech that was translated by the guy to Korean. And I told him about my grandfather, who was also a resistance fighter, and Mr. Kung was extremely proud of uh, us from Brazil knowing about him. And he was like,
Wow.
some Koreans are not aware of what the Koreans did during the war, and you're here from Brazil, um, honoring our history, and thank you very much. So it was extremely powerful. That's also something that tells you that you're doing the right thing. You know, and you're in the right path. Because if they are saying that, it might mean something, probably means something. And that was
Yeah.
something I would like to share as well because it was super powerful. My mom returned 2 months later to give him some gifts, and I plan to visit him again when I have the opportunity to go back to Jeju because that's a fantastic place. Highly recommend visiting Jeju Island in South Korea.
And you have sand that you wanted to show us? Some sand
Sorry?
and didn't
Oh
you
yeah,
say that? Yeah.
from Sodaemun prison. So I chose some items. Most are from the Korean War, but this is the sand from Sodaemun prison. You can see the orange, the red from the bricks. So this is
Wow.
from there. Yeah. I also have. I didn't put it here, but I guess I can pick it. This is the red brick I was mentioning earlier. It's
Wow.
just a
Yeah.
little piece of it. I don't want to bring the entire prison to my house, of course. But yeah, some sand. I actually brought sand from many places in South Korea, many battlefields and the DMZ and yeah, all that
Yeah.
stuff. That's something I
Yeah.
also got dipped to the neck, like the Korean War, the communists and everything. It was
Yeah,
very,
my
very
grandma
interesting.
also, I have a very parallel story to yours. My grandma passed away and we found all these items and I had thought that she had lost her mind telling me, oh, to stop watching anime, the Japanese are not good people, but she lived through the occupation of Hong Kong by the Japanese. So it's not like at first I thought she was just, being biased or racist, and then I realized her lived experience, and that's why I think that people need to admit that these as they're not people are not healed, they're not the same as before, and they pass on the stories. And bef- like Germany, they apologized and said, okay, we're not going to do it again, but we don't really hear it from these current leaders. In fact, Kishi Nobusuke was a class A war criminal, and then his grandson became Abe Shinzo, who was assassinated, like a
Yeah.
few years back, but he was still in power. He was still prime minister. And in fact, um, and then there was another prime minister named Asso, Taro Asso, who is in the LDP cabinet, and he supported the current prime minister, who frequently visited Yasukuni Shrine. And Yasukuni Shrine is where
Yeah.
Tojo and all the war criminals go. And so if they're
Yeah,
going to
Hirohito.
continue, yeah, and so if they're going
Yeah.
to continuously doing that,
Mhm.
then there's no way other people are going to be okay with it, and especially other people who suffer through all these atrocities. And so
Yeah,
fine. Mhm.
it's the equivalent of going to visit Hitler's tombstone or
Eagle's
like his
nest.
grave.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, it's what a weird thing to do, and what a weird thing for a government to keep that shrine there. It's so freaking weird. And
Yeah,
yeah,
and
sorry
keep
to
the
interrupt
war
you.
criminals there, and kind of, I don't know if you've ever been to the shrine. Next time we can go. And yeah, I have been to the shrine. It's kind of they kind of distort history, and then they talk about they when I went, they had the steam train that was built by POWs in World War II, and they glorified it. It was quite something. I'm going to include it in this video.
Yeah,
And so. Mhm.
no, go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah, and so final wrap-up question. After Korea and reflecting on clips like the feminist ones and doing what you do on Instagram, what's one takeaway you would like to give to aspiring history influencers or just anyone on making World War II and the sites like Solomon feel urgent and alive today?
Well, I think first of all, you should be humble, and if you want to learn the first steps to understand, you are ignorant. So be humble, listen to people around you, especially the ones who are doing it for a while. Like when I told the story, my story is Samuel, and that's basically what I did. I was like, okay, this guy is rocking books, and I gotta listen to him. Yeah, he knows something I don't, and probably I knew something he didn't as well. um, so be humble, learn from people, connect a lot to people, and develop your critical thinking to the point where you're not relying on other people to build your own um, ideas and views of stuff, especially if it's history, because there is a war of narrative, and it's going to be forever. There's no remedy for that. And maybe that's the beauty of the thing. So if you want to make an Instagram page about history about World War II or a YouTube channel, just go up there and freaking do it. I had a guest in the show who asked me, "Oh, I wanted to start my like at the end of the episode. It was like I wanted to start my own podcast, and I don't know from where I should start." It was like from the microphone where you speak to the microphone, you start speaking, and that's what you gotta do. Go out there, risk it. Listen, I'm not a native English speaker, and here I am.
Yeah.
I'm fighting for it because I want to learn. I want to learn from people like Jenny, like Jean, like Quinn, like Samuel, like all the guests I have on the show. And that's what I have to say. Go out there, learn stuff, be real. Like don't try to be edgy. I think that's an
Yeah.
important advice. Like, don't try to be that guy that goes against the current just because I want to be edgy. So that's why I'm going to support Nazi narratives or like the Japanese imperialist narratives. So And one last thing I would like to say is the truth is there. It's just up to you to go and check it out, because most of these guys commenting on our post, they're like, you have to prove it. It's like, no, you're accusing me of bringing fake information. So the odds of proving are all yours. You have
Right.
to prove. And it's very hard for them because, again, truth is out there. You can check the Pacific Atrocities Education if you want. What, 1 million pages of
Yeah,
their
digital
archive? Yeah,
archive. It was not easy.
yeah.
We were
So
going to DC, Maryland, College Park, like couple times a year. Now I have someone who helped me scan weekly, and it's so insane that these pages are so fragile and so weak. And well, now with the government shutdown, we haven't scanned it for like this month, but we have so many war crimes pages. People should definitely check it out. It's not like it's not out there. It's just people don't want to see it, or they deny the facts and they say whatever, war crimes are cool, and that's what they say. It's
or
insane.
maybe the war crimes are necessary. I get that a lot. Like war crime, like there was this video of like German soldiers putting civilians to walk on a minefield, and the comments were like, "Oh, you don't understand war. Would you walk on that minefield, or would you put the prisoners?" And I was like, first place, don't invade your friend's country. Stay doing
Right.
your own stuff, right? So then you're not going to be walking on freaking minefields in first place. Don't try a war of extermination on your neighbors, and don't wage it. So that's that's the thing.
And
Um,
it's so insane because now I feel like I've almost heard it all. Oh, what about the warlords and whatnot? And then today they were telling me, oh no, Unit 731 is just what place where they filter water. They were helping people, and all these
yeah.
human experimentations are fake and blah, blah, blah. And it's just nonstop. So, well, let's just keep posting the way we do and tag me, and I'm more than happy to answer sometimes if I am free and just on the toilet on Instagram. That's when I normally respond. So yeah, thank you so much
I
for coming on our podcast.
Okay, I really appreciate the opportunity to be here. I encourage everyone who's watching this, if you came all the way down here, give the Pacific Front Untold a subscribe and check out the World War II Daily. You can find us on Instagram, YouTube, Spotify. We're all over, so it's not very hard to find us. And we post monthly episodes. Normally, we do interviews with World War II specialists, writers, veterans, survivors, and very like different topics. We don't usually talk about D-Day, Omaha Beach, the 101st Airborne, Band of Brothers, Stalingrad. We're talking about like the history of anti-air artillery, or we talk to people from the Pacific Atrocities Education about the Kwantung Army, or Jean, who is a Chinese survivor from the Japanese occupation. So we try to bring the stories that need to be shared more oftenly, I believe. So yeah,
Yeah.
thank you very much, Jenny, for having me tonight. It was amazing. I really loved being here.
Yeah, and I would probably invite you again or Sam, and then yeah, let's do it more often.
Yeah, yeah. Let's invite Sam to join us at some time.
Yeah.